Welcome. In this video, I am discussing the dynamics of life. In Ecclesiastes chapter 9, the verse 11, it is written, "And I have seen another thing under this sun, that fast runners do not always win the races. Brave people do not always win the battles. Wise people do not always make a living. Intelligent people do not always become rich. And capable people do not always rise to high offices, but time and chance happens to them all." If you do analysis of this scripture, it means that if you are educated, if you are talented, and you are gifted, and you are more experienced than your boss at the workplace, do not become offended, but remember that it is not fast runners who always wins the battle, and it is part of the dynamics of life. Sometimes a virgin will get married and will be struggling for 10 years to conceive, and a lady who has aborted 4 pregnancies gets married, and the following month she is pregnant. Such is also part of the dynamics of life. It is not always the beautiful ladies who always get married. Sometimes the ugly ladies are married, whilst the beautiful ones are struggling to get a husband. Sometimes the illiterate ladies get married, whilst the educated ones are struggling to find a husband. So even if you are talented, you are educated, you are gifted, you have more influence than your employer, do not become offended, because fast runners do not always win the races, and brave people do not always win the battles, but time and chance happens to them all. Also remember, it is not always that students who are academically good end up becoming professors, influencers, and authors in life. Sometimes in school, those who are not academically good sometimes will end up later in life becoming more influential. Some of them even will end up becoming scholars. Some of them will end up becoming authors, when those who were academically good during their time or their days in school will be silent in life. So always remember that fast runners do not always win the races, and brave people do not always win the battles, and wise people do not always make a living, and intelligent people do not always become rich, and capable people do not always rise to high offices. Sometimes even the giant, the thick, tall, and handsome are not rich, but you see the Lilliputians becoming rich. Such is the dynamics of life. And so whatever happens to you, do not become offended, but see it as part of the dynamics of life. Sometimes the oldest daughter is struggling to find a husband, whilst the youngest is in the home of the husband. Such is also part of life. So don't become offended when your younger sisters gets married before you. And don't become offended when you are intelligent, when you are wiser, when you are educated, when you are talented than your boss at your workplace. But remember that fast runners do not always win the races. The brave do not always win the battles. The wise do not always make a living, and intelligent people do not always become rich, and capable people do not always rise to high offices, but time, a chance, happens to them all. Bye bye.